then I got a call back, then I had to go to the studio, and then I had to go to the network. And each time I went, I thought, well, I'll be eliminated today, and then I can pack and go back to New York. And it just kept going. And then when I got to the network, it was myself and Roddy McDowell.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Ooh.
And an Indian actor whose name I can't recall, with a very good British accent. And then by the time I got home, I had a call from my agent saying, "You got it." And then about 3 hours later, Fran Drescher called me at home, and she said, "I bet you thought it was going to be Roddy McDowell when you saw him." And I said, "Well, it made me very nervous." And she said, "No, because then it would have been the Roddy McDowell show, and this is the Fran Drescher show." So I thought, okay, I get it. I know where I stand. So and then I thought, we did the pilot, and I thought, this is either going to, go down like the Titanic, or it's going to be a big hit. And it's going to depend on how it tests. And the places that they thought it would test the best were like New York and the East Coast. And it tested the best in the South of the United States and the Midwest, because she was such a rare, unknown quantity in that part of the country. And she and Peter both sort of, I won't say exploited, but they certainly used their own personal history in the show. And every single character on that show, except probably for Niles and Cece, was somebody from Peter and Fran's life growing up, because they were sweethearts from high school on. So they tested it, and it went through the roof. It was of all the things that CBS put forth to the test audience that year, The Nanny was number one. And so we went on the air, and we were on, I think, on a Monday night or Wednesday night. I can't remember exactly. And we did okay, but we didn't go through the roof. We didn't set anything on fire. But then over the summer, they reran it in a different time slot, and everybody was sick of reruns, so they looked for something new. And that's when we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when we knew, because it went through the roof. And then we were moved to the magic hour on CBS in the States, which is 8 o'clock on Monday. So suddenly we were the show to watch.
Yeah. And you were for so many years.
Yeah.
Daniel Davis, who was Niles the butler on The Nanny, my guest this afternoon on ABC Local Radio Queensland. I just want to play a little bit of, this is the scene where you finally find out what the thing is. Can you explain how the thing, not what the thing is, but what the fun of the thing was for the show?
Well, we knew that Fran and Mr. Shaughnessy were getting closer. What none of us knew, and I guess I can't remember. Did the audience know, but we didn't?
Oh, yeah, because they nearly went, the plane nearly crashed.
That's right.
That's right.
So he proposed to her on the plane, and then when they were saved and rescued, he took it back.
Yeah.
So that became the thing.
And this is you finding out finally what the thing is.
Okay.
Did you just say that you told Miss Fine that you loved her? And then you took it back? That's it, isn't it? That's the thing! Oh, I could kick you in the seat of the pants. Beg your pardon? I said I need to press the pleat in your pants, but that's exactly fine. Now, you march yourself down to that department store and beg that woman to come back.
As the series went on, Daniel, did they start to write more around your personalities, your actual personalities, and sort of weave that into the characters?
I think that what they wove the writing around was the way we delivered, the way we landed the jokes.
Yep.
And they would listen to our personal rhythms, and they would listen to us banter with each other when we weren't on camera. And I do have a bit of a wicked sense of humor in my real life as well. I haven't demonstrated it yet to you, but
it's all good.
I may end up doing that.
I don't want to be on the end of a CC from you. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't think so. And but what I finally decided, because I don't know if you've ever been around a comedy writer's room, but it is like a war zone. And everybody is out trying to outscream everybody else. No, this is funnier than what you said. That's not funny. And so they would batter with each other. And I finally decided that Niles was the conduit for all of the writers' frustrations, because all of my lines seemed to be something that they wished they could say to somebody and couldn't get away with it and keep the peace. Because Niles is a character that has his roots all the way back in Roman comedy. I mean, that character writer, the servant who can say with impunity anything he wants or feels like saying. And of course, a lot of us wish we could do that. And
yes.
I've told the story of, and this is true, we'd have a table read on Monday, and I would read the script, and I would have absolutely nothing to say. And I would think, my feelings were hurt, and I'd think, well, what's going on? I don't have a storyline here. I don't even have a B story. And then as the script developed, you could hear the writer saying, Niles needs to come in right there and punch this, because, and that's how I got some of my best lines. Just as the week went by. And then on the last night of the week, when we were taping in front of the live audience, many times I was handed a slip of paper with a line on it that nobody in the cast had heard. And I would read it, learn it, and they'd say, go, and we'd shoot it, and I'd say it, and the cast would fall apart.
Yep. That must have been fun, though, being the one to, insert the zinger there.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun. I mean, I had a great time for 6 years.
You also had amazing guests coming on, guest actors. I was looking through Pamela Anderson, Joan Collins, Chevy Chase, Hugh Grant, David Letterman, Elton John, Elizabeth Taylor, even Donald Trump was on the show. Were these people sort of clamoring to get on by the end?
I think there's, anytime you have a popular show that has a wide audience, it becomes easier to get what they call stunt casting, which is to get someone famous to come in and play a line. And I think Elizabeth Taylor was the one that put us in the most of us, all of us in a spin. And the funny thing about Liz Taylor coming was that she is a very kind and very sweet, generous person, will do anything she was asked to do. But her handlers and her managers had a list of requirements. And oh boy, were they clever. You had to repaint her dressing room lavender. You had to have lavender towels. You had to have one kind of water for her dog and one kind of water for her, because her water gave the dog brown whiskers. And there had to be a present from Tiffany's on her dressing table of a value no less than $5,000.
That's interesting. That's exactly my rider, too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think
week.
they were carrying her riders around in a wheelbarrow.
I bet they. And how much Tiffany can one person have?
Exactly.
Really. Now, the role that you're going to be celebrating, because, of course, you're in Brisbane at the moment for the Conquest Sci-Fi Convention.
Right.
Now, that's happening Saturday and Sunday at the Hotel Jen in Roma Street, 9 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. But that's more sci-fi. And now, for those who love Star Trek Next Generation and your work, of course, you played Dr. Moriarty.
I did. Professor James Moriarty. The interesting thing about those, I did 2 episodes, but they were like three years apart, I think, because the writers assumed that because Conan Doyle was, gone the 50-year limit for what is normally considered the public domain, that they could just use Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson and Moriarty with impunity, and they couldn't. But they didn't know that until we already were on the air with the show. And then suddenly they get a rather large lawsuit from the Conan Doyle Society, because Conan Doyle and James M. Barrie and Lewis Carroll established in perpetuity that all rights that they received, that their works received, would go to each of their own charities. And they have orphanages, they have schools for the blind, schools for the deaf. It's a lot of very charitable work that their foundations do. And to use their characters without permission gets you into some hot water. But the episode, because it combined the mythos of Star Trek with the mythos of Sherlock Holmes, it was hugely popular with the fans.
Yes.
And they clamored for a return, because the way it ended so ambiguously, what happens to him and where does Moriarty go, and those incredible scenes that they wrote, it became an episode about what it is to be a human being, and knowing that he was a holographic character, and knowing that he also had sentience. It's like, okay, what am I? And so that that was pretty extraordinary. But they finally got their problems with the Conan Doyle Society solved, and some nice charitable contributions were made, and we were doing our return episode, which
3 years later.
3 years later.
This is, for those who haven't seen the episode of Star Trek Next Generation, this is Moriarty, as Daniel just mentioned, a holograph that has been created by Data, who's an android and hyper intelligent because of that.
Right.
Moriarty was designed to be more intelligent than Data, to give him a challenge in the holodeck.
Yes.
And quickly become sentient. And so therefore the dilemma for the crew and for the captain is what to do with this sentient being who exists only as a holographic image.
Exactly.
And this is Daniel as Moriarty arguing his case that he should be able to live.
Is the definition of life cogito ergo sum? I think, therefore I am.
Yes, that is one possible definition.
It is the most important one. And for me, the only one that matters. You or someone asked your computer to program a nefarious fictional character from 19th century London, and that is how I arrived. But I am no longer that creation. I am no longer that evil character. I have changed. I am alive.
What was it like being in, because you love science fiction.
I do
I've
indeed.
heard. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
That you have that character and that depth of exploration of what it is to be a human being on what could have been passed off as just another sci-fi show.
Yeah, I don't think that Gene Roddenberry would have ever produced an episode of that show that did not have some substantial argument, some substantial case to make about how we deal with each other on the planet or in the universe. And in fact, in the first episode, right after I make that particular speech, and God, was it good to hear Patrick's voice coming through again.
It's like the battle of the great British accents.
But it was, I had a line about, if you don't find a way of saving me, I can't remember the exact line, but in effect, you will be killing me. You will do murder. And that was something, and even saying that line made Mr. Roddenberry upset when he looked at it in the editing. And I was called back 2 weeks after I'd wrapped to reshoot that scene in which Patrick said, "I do not wish to kill you." And that was the design that they constructed to put me into the little. I still think I'm floating around someplace.
In a computer chip somewhere.
Yeah, in a computer chip on Patrick's desk. I keep waiting for them to do one of the new Star Trek versions where Chris Pine's character finds my chip. and I suddenly, they play it and I suddenly take over the entire universe from inside Chris Pine's brain or something.
It can still happen.
It can still happen.
You're good friends with Kate Mulgrew, who was Captain Janeway.
Indeed, I am.
How did you not get on Voyager then?
Oh, Kate, if Kate had her way, I would have been. But Gene was gone by then, and the new producers felt that I was so strongly identified with Moriarty that they'd have to bring me, if I was going to be there, they'd either have to cover me in a ton of Klingon makeup, or they would have to, revive Moriarty, which I don't think they didn't figure out how that would work on the Voyager.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Davis, I know that you've had just no sleep, that you're completely exhausted. You have been so charming and wonderful.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in this
afternoon.
afternoon.
Kelly, I've loved being with you. Thank you so much.
And Daniel Davis, as I mentioned, part of the Conquest Sci-Fi Convention, Saturday and Sunday at the Hotel Gen, Roma Street in Brisbane, 9 to 5 on both those days. Tickets at the door. Thank you.
Bless you. Thanks.
There are all of those things